It is a common human experience, perhaps the most difficult one to reconcile, that the scaffolding we meticulously construct for safety often becomes the cage we eventually resent. The life you built, brick by necessary brick, the routines, the agreements, the predictable silence, was essential. It provided the structure that allowed you to function, to raise children, to pursue careers, to simply survive the relentless entropy of daily life. Yet, as the years accumulate, many people reach a point where they look around the perimeter of that stable existence and feel not gratitude, but a profound, chilling emptiness. It is not the absence of things, but the absence of aliveness within the things. This emotional void that appears after decades of shared existence is rarely born of malice or sudden failure. It is the result of a slow, steady erosion, the quiet cost of efficiency. In the early years, you were explorers. You were mapping unknown territory, constantly communicating, constantly adjusting your position relative to the other. But once the map is complete, once the territory is familiar, we stop navigating. We start commuting. We move through the shared space with an assumed certainty, believing we know exactly what is on the other side of the room, exactly what the other person thinks, desires, or fears. We stop asking the difficult questions because the answers might disrupt the very stability we worked so hard to achieve. This is the point where connection degrades into mere coordination. You are excellent logistical partners. You manage the finances, the appointments, the illnesses. You are highly successful co-COs of the domestic enterprise. But the emotional bandwidth required for that management consumes the energy once reserved for intimacy. The logistics become the relationship. And it is impossible to feel desired by your coworker. When this happens, the self begins to feel suffocated by its own creation. You realize that the structure you needed to protect you from the chaos of the world has also protected you from the chaos of your own inner life, including the necessary chaos of passion and desire. The structure has become so rigid that it no longer allows for the expansion of the individual self. This leads us to the inevitable, often shameful realization of attraction to others. When the emotional landscape inside your primary relationship feels flat, the sight of vibrancy elsewhere is not an indictment of your character, it is a symptom of your own unmet need for vitality. It is a yearning for the parts of yourself that have been dormant, the self that was spontaneous, the self that was mysterious, the self that was not yet defined by mortgage payments and childcare schedules. Many assume that attraction to an external person signifies a lack of love for the partner or a fundamental flaw in the marriage. This is often untrue. The external attraction is frequently a desperate attempt to find an escape route back to the self you lost somewhere between the wedding day and today. Desire, as some authors explain, requires distance. It requires the gap between what you know and what you imagine. Domestic intimacy, by its very nature, eliminates that gap. It insists on knowing everything, the morning breath, the repetitive grievances, the predictable response. We kill desire by making the other person fully legible. The stranger, the colleague, the person across the room, carries the unbearable lightness of the unknown. They reflect a version of you that is lighter, unburdened by history, free from the heavy gravity of shared responsibility. It is critical to distinguish between desire, neediness, and genuine connection. Neediness is the attempt to use the other person as a plug for your own internal socket. It is saying, I am empty, and you must fill me. This inevitably places a crushing burden on the partner, pushing them further away, because no single human being can sustain the weight of another's existential fulfillment. Desire is the recognition of the otherness of the partner, the acknowledgement that they are a separate, sovereign entity who remains partially mysterious, even after decades. Desire is the willingness to cross that distance again and again. Connection is the mutual vulnerability, the agreement to put aside the efficient manager and reveal the frightened, complex person underneath. In long relationships, men and women often drift apart emotionally in qualitatively different ways, though the underlying cause is the same, the privatization of distress. For many men, the structure of the long marriage often reinforces the societal requirement for competence and stoicism. They are often defined by their utility, their ability to fix, to provide, to solve the external problems. When the emotional currents of the relationship become turbulent, the instinct is often to retreat into the functional role, to manage the crisis silently, or to focus intensely on the external world, work, hobbies, or the pursuit of achievement, where their competence is guaranteed. This retreat is perceived by the partner not as struggle, but as indifference, reinforcing the emotional distance. He feels necessary, but perhaps unseen. Conversely, many women often experience the drift as a loss of shared internal reality. She may feel responsible for maintaining the emotional temperature of the home, becoming the primary emotional laborer. When her attempts to connect are met with functional responses, a fix, a solution, a shift in topic, she registers the interaction as a failure to be met. She feels deeply seen, perhaps, in her roles as mother or professional, but profoundly unheard in her complex internal world. She feels understood, but perhaps not desired. The result is that both partners are lonely, but they are lonely in different languages. They are standing in the same room, but facing opposite directions, one focused on the external structure, the other focused on the internal emptiness. The temptation, when facing this emptiness, is to tear down the structure entirely, believing that freedom lies in demolition. But freedom rarely lies in the destruction of what sustained you. The realization that must dawn is this: the life you built, even the parts you now resent, is the very foundation upon which your current self stands. The resilience, the patience, the capacity for long-term commitment, these are not accidental traits. They were forged in the heat of that shared history. The challenge is not to escape the structure, but to retrofit it. To create windows where there were only walls, allowing light and air back into the stale rooms. This adjustment requires a shift from efficient management back to inefficient, messy vulnerability. It requires deliberately introducing the unexpected back into the predictable. This is not a promise of eternal, flawless passion. That is an adolescent fantasy. The adjustment is the mature recognition that desire and connection are not static gifts, they are skills that degrade without practice. They must be re-earned, daily, within the very framework you already inhabit. It is the difficult, quiet work of turning toward each other again, not as managers of a life, but as witnesses to each other's evolving, complex, and still mysterious selves. It means accepting the difficult truth that the person you married is gone. And the person you were when you married them is gone, too. This is not tragedy, it is the natural consequence of time. The question is whether you are willing to introduce yourselves to these new people who have emerged from the crucible of your shared history. The first step in this reframing is to stop using the relationship structure as the excuse for your stagnation, and start using it as the stable platform for your own necessary, individual rebirth. You must cease asking your partner to complete you, and instead, invite them to observe you as you begin the difficult work of completing yourself. This is the mature turn. The realization that you cannot blame the container for the quality of what you put inside it. Many people feel that the stability itself is the problem. They believe that if the walls were gone, they would suddenly become spontaneous and alive. This is a profound misunderstanding of human nature. Freedom is not the absence of constraint. It is the careful negotiation within constraint. Your structure, the shared history, the financial ties, the children, the physical house, is not merely an oppressive cage. It is the most powerful laboratory you have ever been given. It is the proof of your capacity for loyalty and commitment. You did not survive decades of life by accident. You survived them through the mutual, disciplined commitment to the mundane. That discipline is the strength you must now redirect. When we talk about retrofitting the marriage, we are talking about honoring the gravity of that history while simultaneously injecting lightness. The work begins with deliberate self-reclamation. What did you stop doing because it wasn't efficient? What conversation did you postpone because it risked discomfort? You must reintroduce risk into predictability. It means scheduling time for the inefficient. Time for conversation that has no agenda. Time for seeing the other person outside of their functional roles. For the partner who retreated into function, stop solving. Start witnessing. Learn to sit with the discomfort of the other person's distress without immediately trying to engineer a solution. Your presence is the connection. Your competence is secondary. For the partner who felt unheard, stop demanding to be filled. Start defining the boundaries of your own fulfillment. Show your partner the complex internal world, not as a complaint, but as a shared observation. Invite them in, but do not require them to carry the furniture. Some studies show that the happiest long-term relationships are not those that avoid conflict or maintain perpetual high passion. They are the relationships where partners maintain what is sometimes called differentiated togetherness. They understand that two separate, distinct individuals are choosing to share a journey, and that healthy distance is necessary for healthy desire. Intimacy is not fusion. It is the space between two whole, separate people. The life you resented, the one defined by mortgages and routine, is the very structure that provided the safety for you to finally ask these terrifying, necessary questions. It gave you the time. It gave you the security. The true tragedy is not realizing that the structure was rigid. The tragedy is failing to realize that you possess the tools, forged over decades of shared life, to soften that structure, brick by mature brick. Your relationship is not a failure because it requires maintenance. It is a profound success because it has lasted long enough for the next, more authentic phase of work to begin. This is the quiet, adult beauty of staying. Not staying out of habit, but staying out of the conscious, demanding choice to re-engage with the mystery you built a life beside. You must stop confusing the weight of life with the weight of the relationship. Life is heavy. It requires structure. The purpose of the relationship is not to eliminate the weight, but to ensure that you are never carrying it alone. This reframing is the ultimate act of maturity. It is the recognition that the stability you once craved, and then resented, is the precise platform from which you can finally launch your most authentic self. The structure you built is not the problem. The stagnation within it was the choice. And that choice can be unmade.